Hey guys, Buff from GameBet today, bringing out a video for our weapon conversion series for our Cold War weapons. So today we're going to be covering all of the M16/M4 builds in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So we'll go ahead and jump right into these. I'll build each one of these different variants. None of them are full-on conversions just because of what we have available to us in Cold War. I will be building them here inside of Warzone Modern Warfare though, just because it's easier to build them in here and it looks a little bit better as we're building them as well, and we can show them off a little bit easier. But obviously you can make these inside of Cold War in the multiplayer or inside of Modern Warfare's Call of Duty Warzone as well. So let's go ahead and back out and we'll jump right into it and go through all of the M16 and the M4 builds available in Black Ops Cold War / Warzone for the Cold War weapons. So here we go. We'll go ahead and back out to our full list here. So we have a couple here we'll cover. So first off, the XM4. So the actual XM4 we're going to build here out of the M16. So let me just strip this down to base. We'll leave the base muzzle here, and then we're going to go for the barrel. We're going to want that 15.9-inch Cavalier Lancer, just because this is the closest we can get to that 14.5-inch barrel that would be available for the actual M4 XM4. We don't have a 14.5-inch. This is the shortest one available, is a Cavalier Lancer. And then we also have the Strike Team. However, that gives us kind of an M16A1 type handgun. So we want the Cavalier Lancer, give it the shortest type barrel we have. Now to modernize it a little bit, we can throw on some sort of laser. We can go ahead and just put on a steady aim for cosmetic purposes. Now the stock option, we can see we have an M16A1A2 buttstock here. We're going to go ahead and want the SAS Combat stock. So this is going to give us that shooting movement speed, aim walking movement speed, as well as the hipfire accuracy will be the con there. And then obviously, as we cover the Lancer barrel, you're only getting the vehicle damage, so you may want to even go with a barrel that we'll cover later, being the titanium barrel, which will give you different pros and cons too, but we'll go over that for a different build. Next up, we'll skip out on the grip. For the ammunition, you can see here with the base model is for an original A1 20-round magazine, even though in-game this holds 30 rounds of 5.56x45 NATO, so we're going to want to go ahead and put on the 45-round magazine. So this is actually modeled after the 30-round Stenag mag for this weapon. So this is going to give us the pros being the magazine ammo capacity, max starting ammo, and ammo capacity. The cons here are the reload quickness. Now this will go from 30 to 45 rounds of the 5.56x45, so you'll add that 15 extra rounds. However, it is modeled after a 30-round Stenag mag, which is cosmetically what we want for this build. And then the last attachment is really more so personal preference. You can go ahead and put an optic on here. However, this is going to be mounted to the carrying handle, which is fine. It goes after the older Colt-15, Colt-723, 724, and even 33 models. You can put on something like a Hawksmoor or a Silix Hollow Scout to kind of make a more modernized looking build. However, I think we'll just leave the base carrying handle. And for the underbarrel, we'll go with just a front grip. Again, more so for cosmetic purposes. If you wanted something for the best stats, you'd probably want something like the Field Agent foregrip, but cosmetically, the color and everything more so matches with the front grip. So this will just help out our horizontal recoil control. We can go ahead and put that on. And again, this is the closest we can get to a real XM4 M4 build here. We have a barrel that is a 15.9-inch here. However, we wanted something that's a 14.5, but looks pretty close. Even the stock and everything looks pretty good here. It's odd that just the magazines aren't modeled correctly. The 45 is a 30 and the 30 is a 10. So some initial mistakes there. Hopefully, maybe those will get corrected down the road. But this is the real XM4 built out of the M16A2 here in game. Go ahead and back out, and next up we'll cover the next model I discussed, and I did do this for a conversion video on its own, which I'll link down below for the Colt 723. So we're going to go with a specific build here for Gordon's 723 or his M4, essentially, that he was using in the Black Hawk Down incident in the movie. You may remember that as well. We can't put the right camo on this, but this is basically what we want here. Is we'll go ahead and strip it down again. So now for the 723, we'll go ahead and do the muzzle. We'll go ahead and throw on an agency suppressor. Again, just modeling it more so after Gordon's 723. So the sound suppression, damage at range, the cons being the ADS speed and the aim walking steadiness. So we'll go ahead and put that on. The barrel, we're going to want that 16.3-inch titanium barrel. And now again, you could go with that the 15.9-inch Cavalier. Would be even shorter option, but if we're looking at actual performance and trying to use this in game, this will give you the fire rate increase. The cons of being the effective damage range for this, but you get the increased fire rate here with the 16.3 titanium. So we'll go ahead and put that on. Then for the optic, we can go ahead and put on just a Vision Tech 2x or an L-can here. So this will just give us that 2x magnification. Again, match up with some of the optics that were especially used back then. We'll go ahead and put that on. And then for the buttstock, we're going to go ahead and want the SAS combat stock for the shooting movement speed and the aim walking movement speed. The con here is just going to be the hip fire accuracy for this weapon. Now again here, we're a little limited if we want to make something more reminiscent of the real thing. We need to put on that 45 round magazine just to match that 30 round Stenag mag as to how it's actually supposed to be modeled. So again, this is just going to give us the magazine ammo capacity. We're going to go up from 30 to 45. Mech started ammo and ammo capacity increased. The cons is the reload quickness because we have a heavier magazine with 15 extra rounds. And those are all 5 of the attachments we can put on this. Now, ideally, we want a light on there. So if you're building this in Cold War multiplayer, we can't do it here in the Warzone menu. But you can put on the Lawbreaker, I believe, perk, or the Gunfighter one, whichever one allows you the 8 attachments, and you can throw on additional attachments. So I would go ahead and put on something like a laser. You're going to want probably something like an SOF. Target designator, really personal preference which one you want. We can go ahead and just do the Tiger Team or the Ember here, and you can view what that would look like. This is basically Gordon's Model 723, Colt Model 723, used in the Black Hawk Down movies, and obviously the real-life incident that happened with that, and he did receive the Medal of Honor for this. So this is Gordon's Colt Model 723, or the Colt-15, built out of the M16 here in game. And we did do a conversion for that. I'll link that down below if you want more details on everything. We go much more in depth in that video. Go ahead and back out and we'll look at the CA7A2. So this one's a little bit of a stretch, but it looks cosmetically as kind of as close as we can get. Now at base we have a 20-inch barrel already, so we'll leave that, or you can go ahead and throw on a better barrel if you're going to build this to be more competitive. You can throw on maybe the Task Force barrel, or even the match grade barrel, whichever one you really choose. This will give you, obviously, the Task Force being probably the best one you can get for this weapon, being increased damage, effective damage range, and bullet velocity is going to be increased. And then the cons being the vertical recoil control and the horizontal recoil control. So that's really personal preference. We can go ahead and put that on just for the sake of using the attachment, and that'll obviously help it perform in multiplayer for Cold War as well as in Warzone. Now, Warzone stats, I wouldn't go by any of these attachments. They're all pretty much wrong, and we don't have all the data for these yet. I know True Game Data, JGod, Exclusive Ace Drifter, all those guys are working on that stuff. So I would go mainly by what it's listed for Cold War multiplayer if you're building these. So the Task Force barrel, we'll leave the muzzle, skip out in the laser. Again, for the optic, we can go ahead and put that 2x L-can on here. Very similar to what is used on the CA7s. And then we'll do the SAS combat stock. This is really personal preference. Some of the models just have the base M16A2 buttstocks on there. However, I have seen some utilizing this type of M4 retractable buttstock as well, the telescopic buttstock. So this will give you the shooting movement speed and the aim walking movement speed. The cons are the hip fire accuracy, which again, we're not really hip firing this weapon, so we'll go ahead and keep that on there. And then for the rear grip, we can skip out on that. We're going to want that 45 round magazine again, just to help out with the cosmetics of the weapon, going from a 20 round magazine. We don't really like cosmetically, that just looks odd. So we want that 30 round model of the Stenag mag, and again, you're getting 45 rounds with that. And then we can put on a front grip for this, and that'll again help out with the horizontal recoil control. Now the CA7 is just a Colt Canada version of the M16A2s, basically. So again, not a full-on conversion, but just a nice variant for all the Canadian fans I do have. I know that you guys like the CA's versions that we did in Modern Warfare as well. So here's a nice CA7A2, at least some of the best we can make. You can also put on some different buttstocks there as well, which will show with the M16A2. You can utilize those as well. Next up is actually the XM4 conversion. So this is not using the base M16, this is using the XM4. And really there's no conversion with this besides the XM177. Again, this is the Colt Commando. It's incorrectly called the XM4 here, but we can go ahead and just strip this down to base. Now, at base, it has that 11.5-inch barrel, basically. So we can just leave the base barrel here, and we have that short barrel. And this is really what made this weapon an issue, is it doesn't really perform well with this shorter barrel. So it did have a lot of performance issues, which is why it was kind of thrown aside, especially by SOF for the Colt Model 723s. This short barrel did not perform well in combat, especially under different environment stresses, etc. So really, you have to be in ideal conditions for this to perform, which never was typically the case. So the XM177, we'll leave the base barrel. Laser we can put on something like a steady aim. Optic we can go ahead and do a hollow scout. We'll throw that on there. Kind of make it look more modernish if we can here. We'll leave the base buttstock on there. And then for the magazine, we can also leave that at the base one. We can go ahead and put a front grip on there. And really, the rest is personal preference. We can put speed tape on, and that's essentially our XM177 is the XM4 here in game. We can throw on it maybe a muzzle if we wanted some sort of a suppressor on there to make it look maybe a little bit more modernized. And again, you can see the sling which is wrapped around this weapon, which goes the bolt release there. It's stuck in the bolt release, so if you were to reload this and hit that release, that could possibly cause some issues there. And then it's wrapped up and over the charging handle and around the buttstock. So if you were to, and you can see it's not hooked on right there, you would hook it onto yourself essentially here, but not, you can't really retract that buttstock without that falling off. So it's a weird design, and for some reason, Chariots loves this this wrap on this, even though it's not connected to anything on the front or on the back, which is a little odd. But regardless, this is our Colt model XM177, one of the many predecessors to the actual M4 as they were working on this. However, like I said, it's not really reliable because of that short barrel at the 11.5 inch. Really, that problem was eventually solved with the Mark 18 CQBRs and eventually the M416 by H&K. So this is our early version of the XM177 E2, I believe this would be. Go ahead and back out. And that's really our only XM4 conversion here. Now, last two, we have, like I said, the base M16A2 is really what this weapon is in game. We can't make the A1. There is an M16 E1 in single player. We don't have the barrel for it, and we don't have the ability to switch this to full auto. It would be neat if we could get a barrel option here to make this, allow this for full auto with that A1 barrel, or maybe even another barrel that would look the part of the A1 perhaps. But or maybe even a weapon perk would be neat to have on this. But it makes sense that we don't, just because we do have the ability to do that with the M16 or the M4 from Modern Warfare. But again, for personal preferences, the base barrel seems like a 20-inch barrel. We can go ahead and put that 20.5-inch task force barrel on there for the damage range, effective damage range, and the bullet velocity. The cons: vertical control, recoil control, and horizontal recoil control. So that's personal preference. You may even be better off with the match grade, just so you don't have to sacrifice the recoil for both the horizontal and the vertical. Now the stock, again, we can just go ahead and throw on a tactical stock. Looks pretty neat. That would be the other option that we went over for the CA7A2. Ammunition, we need that 45 round to replicate the 30 round Stenag. Now that's essentially our M16A2, right? Pretty neat looking, nice and clean. We can even turn this into, we can get a little bit crazy with this and throw on some optics if we really wanted to, like a Hangman RF. And unfortunately, we don't have a bipod option or anything like that. We could kind of almost make like an early version of an SR25 or some sort of one of the many DMRs that came out of this program with this. But again, this is kind of basically the M16A2 with some different options on this is what the weapon is at base. But you can put those other barrel lengths on there, which you can see are the same length as the base barrel, being 20.5 as well. You can just throw on either 20.5 match grade or the task force, and it looks like it might almost extend the handguard up a little bit, but it's really hard to tell. If it does, it's an insignificant amount, and it's really just a cosmetic feature. The barrel itself is still the same length. It may just be a different type of barrel is basically what that's saying. This is our M16A2. And then finally, next up is Larry Vickers Colt-15, or his Colt model 723. So we went over basically Gordon's 723, and here's the Vickers Colt-15, or the 723 as well. So this is essentially what Larry Vickers uses or used when he was active in Delta Force or Green Berets. And again, for this, we'll go ahead and strip this down. Now the barrel, we're going to want that 16.3-inch titanium, give us that fire rate increase, the cons being the effective damage range. And for the laser, we're going to want the Tiger Team Spotlight. Typically, he ran a flashlight or some sort of laser underneath the handguard of this. Go ahead and put that on. And again, that's going to give you the reveal distance The cons being the sprint to fire speed. Not really relevant in Warzone, but in Cold War multiplayer, it does help out for sure. The optic will go ahead and we can do a 3 times being the axle arms just to kind of replicate some of the mounts that he would use on his weapons, or his model of 723. Now the stock option again is going to be the SAS combat stock. We'll go ahead and put that on. And then for the magazine options, again, since we don't have a 30 round, unfortunately, and none of these magazines are modeled correctly. Even the jungle tape is still modeled after a 20 round mag. None of these are modeled after this 40 round speed is modeled after a 20 round as well instead of the actual 30 or 45. The 60 round is correct, actually. It is a quad stack casket mag, which is nice. And then these other ones, again, are modeled after 20 round magazines for whatever reason. But we'll go, ideally we want the 30 round Stenags that are jungle taped. However, they're modeled after 20, so just the way it is. But we do want this jungle style mag for the reload quickness. And what this is basically, back then, these guys were experimenting with this. They would tape these together with basically a spacer, so it would create a V. So you could have one mag in, and the other magazine wouldn't get in the way of the mag well. So you could just pull it down and swap the other one back in. And again, it wouldn't block or get hit or conflict with the mag well as you're reloading the weapon in there. So that is our Larry Vickers Colt Model 723, or the CAR 15, Colt Model 15. Again, one of the early predecessors here to the modern day M4. So these are all of our M16 XM4 builds that we have here in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Let me know down below what you guys think of these weapons. What are your different variants and conversions that you can make? You can definitely make some other ones. I know one of our community members, the Flatley Lamp, did make something similar to a Colt LMG, but we really don't have the best handguard to really replicate that. Unfortunately, you can definitely make something similar with a 20.5 inch match grade, and maybe even the 60 round casket would definitely look similar to the part for sure. However, the handguard, in my mind, isn't really enough to warrant a full-on conversion that we're going over here. But overall, these are all of our builds for the M16 XM4s in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Let me know what you think down below. If there's a conversion that I missed that's significant enough, try to go over really high-level ones here. We could get really in-depth with the different 723s, 724s, 733s that Colt came out with. But again, go ahead and check out the link. I'll link that actual conversion I did for the Colt Model 723 down below, and I go over in more in depth all of that type of information. But let me know down below what you guys think of these conversions for the M16 and the XM4 and Black Ops Cold War. I'll leave you guys with that. This is Buffner Gaming. Till next time, Buffner Gaming out.